I'm excited to ask a few questions to our new guest. This is Sergiy Sumlenny. Mr. Sumlenny is a political scientist. Well, thank you very much for taking time to this conversation.
Thank you for having invited me.
And let me start with this question. The summits regarding the Ukrainian peace formula are supposedly a small party between Ukraine and the NATO states, according to Russian propaganda claims. The meeting in Malta, in my opinion, completely refuted this ridiculous thesis. Why it is essential to work with the global South?
Well, we know that the Russia's positions in the global South are traditionally stronger than anyone wished. And Russia plays its play of lie. On one hand, it tells the story of anti-colonialism, of right of the nations for self-determination, which are the topics which the global South gladly listens because they have this history of being oppressed. But at the same time, Russia oppresses its own neighbors. Russia runs colonial wars, classic colonial wars of the 19th century. And that is the part of the story which Russia doesn't tell in the global South. And in this twisted reality, which Russia creates also with its propaganda media, the consequence is that the countries which Russia assaults with its colonial wars, like Ukraine, Georgia, but also other countries like Kazakhstan or others which Russia tries to oppress economically, they look to be like in the eyes of the global South, they often look to be as the agents of the United States out of this twisted logic. Those who oppose Russia and being supported by the US should be agents of global imperialism, which is, as we know, utterly false and is total lie, because Ukraine fights for its independence and against Russian colonialism. And that is the story we need to explain in the global South.
Yes, before the events in the Middle East, the situation seems to be not as severe as it's now, for my opinion. The head of the office of the president of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, assures that despite the event in the Middle East, Ukraine remains the focus of world attention. Is it possible to shift this emphasis in the near future, and how do we prevent it? How do you prevent it? It's very important.
Well, it is almost impossible to hold the focus of attention of the global community for such a long time as Ukraine is doing, like for almost 2 years. And we know, of course, that such conflicts, such emotionally loaded conflicts as the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, of course, when something starts to burn there, then the attention of many people is already locked on Israel, on Palestine, because people feel personally connected to this region. So from this perspective, of course, the current escalation in Israel is something which drives attention from Ukraine. And I think that was the Russians' calculation. That was what Russia wanted to achieve, to continue its assault against Ukraine, while Ukraine is being overshadowed by another conflict. But I don't think that it is something we may constantly fight and say, oh, don't tell about Palestine, don't tell about Israel, tell only about Ukraine, because people feel connected with many topics. And again, we still have a very strong attention to Ukraine. And if we continue to spread the word and continue to explain why Ukraine is important, why you cannot only focus on one conflict simultaneously, on one conflict at the same time, we can win hearts and minds of the people, because Ukraine still remains important. And if Russia prevails in Ukraine, it will prevail also in other regions, and it is not in the interest of many people in this world.
So, and what will be your answer? You just mentioned that we have to do everything to make understandable for everybody in this world why Ukraine is so important? And what will be your answer on this question? Why?
Yeah, like my answer the same moment you ask it is because when Ukraine fails, other nations will fail too. Because when Ukraine fails, it will be opening the gates of the hell, because every dictator in the world will know he may start a war of aggression, he may kill hundreds of thousands of people, deport people, torture, rape, execute, steal values, do everything they want, like starting from the ecocide, ending to mass deportation of children, and he will be awarded for that by granting new territories. And we cannot imagine what sort of attractivity this mindset has for dictators worldwide. We see that, like dictators, they already forge their new unions. We see that that countries which are about like to oppress their neighbors, they are sharing knowledge with Russia. They are starting new alliances, and this is not what we may allow to happen. We want to have a peace. We want to have the world where nations live in peace, where no nation starts a war to get a part of the territory of a neighbor, where no nation kidnaps tens of thousands of children, where no nation sends its troops saying them, destroy everything you see, burn the crops, destroy the libraries, rape women, and come back as heroes. It is not the world what we want to live. We lived once in such world, like hundreds of years ago. We don't want to come back there. If Ukraine fails, this will be the world where we will have to live. And believe me, nobody wants it. Seriously, nobody wants it. Like many people, many hotheads say, oh, there will be nothing bad. Putin will just get what he wants and he will stop. No, it's not even about Putin. And if he stops or not, I personally don't believe he will stop. But it's about another dictators who will see, oh, he did it, he got rewarded, I will do the same.
What does China's absence at the summit mean? I mean, in the Malta summit, is this a signal was hidden? Is it possible to talk to the global south without this country, I mean China?
Well, it is something which is regrettable that China decided not to attend. And of course, China is an important voice in the world, and China has a very strong influence in the global south, especially in Africa in particular. But it is, I would say, it is more a sign of moral weakness. If China had their agenda, which they could present and which they could defend on this summit, which would be like different compared to what Ukraine, for example, is ready to say, they should have come and presented it and openly challenged Ukraine and say, look, we have our different view, but like hiding and deciding to ignore this open, democratic and peaceful summit is not a right choice by China, I believe. But after all, we have seen a very ambiguous role of China in this war, as China tried to camouflage itself as a peace mediator and peaceful power, which can offer some sort of peace plan, this 12 steps or 10 steps plan. But if you read it carefully, you will see that the expertise, Chinese expertise on what is going on in Ukraine is very limited, and many advices and many solutions China suggested were at least naive. So now one should ask himself or herself, was it the consequence of bad will, of manipulation, or were Chinese diplomats not so clever as many believe they are? Maybe they're just ignorant.
There is another country. This is a country which is interesting. The position of this country is really interesting. A representative of Armenia also flew to Valletta, and we know that the country did not participate in the two previous summits. What can the presence of Yerevan indicate, in your opinion?
Well, I think it is good that Armenia is visiting, and we know that Armenia is now trying to find out where is its place. The military alliance with Russia, which was Armenia's idea to have like some sort of security guarantees against Azerbaijan and guarantees of existence of what they call Artsakh, what the other world calls Nagorno-Karabakh. This bet was lost. Like, Russia has abandoned Armenia and openly mocked Armenia during the last military tensions with Azerbaijan, when Azerbaijan got control of Karabakh. So now Armenia tries to find out where is its place. Should it support Russia as fiercely as it has before, or should it maybe find other ways of playing more moderate game on the international stage? So I think that any contact on this summit with any country which has experience of being oppressed by Russia, and Armenia, of course, has a long history of being oppressed by Russia. Even now, Russian troops are being stationed on Ukraine on the rules which are very unfavorable for Armenia. And Russia sells energy to Armenia exactly in this oppressing way of pumping money out of Armenia. I think it's good that these countries visited Malta summit, also because their experience of what is Russian oppression, what is Russian colonialism, can be helpful on this international stage.
So, Mr. Sumlenny, I'll not be mistaken if I say that the demand for peace in the world is enormous. This applies not only to Ukraine. How important is leadership and initiative in this matter?
Well, leadership always decides, and you cannot have a successful foreign policy without your country being led by a politician who is a fierce supporter of peace and who is not afraid of making steps. Like, you can think about the United States, the biggest economy in the world, who is unfortunately now acting very cautiously, thinking more, as many say, about not provoking Russia than about defeating Russia and providing stable peace. Or think about my country, Germany, the strongest economy in Europe, but still very reluctant in anything what regards the protecting of peace and making strong, decisive steps. That is exactly the fruitful soil for all possible ways for the dictators to blackmail us. Because when the dictators know that the thing we are afraid of most is the war, they will threaten us with war. They will say, do that, or don't do that or that, or otherwise I will start a war. And we remain reluctant, but they start the war anywhere. It was the talk of Putin all the time, like, don't provoke me, don't send help for Ukraine, or otherwise I will attack Ukraine. The West didn't send weapons to Ukraine, or at least until the last weeks. So what Putin did, he attacked Ukraine while Ukraine was unprotected, and while Ukraine had clearly not enough weapons. So that is, I think, the biggest disbalance in power between democracies and autocracies or totalitarian states. Democracies value peace, and they are ready to do almost everything for peace. Autocracies are not afraid of war because they don't value human life. But in this fight, one day, democracies must say, to protect our peace and to protect freedom in the world, we must risk and we must face the challenges, because otherwise we will have the war anyway, but in worse situation. So this summit is about protecting peace, but we cannot protect peace while being vulnerable and while being weak. To protect peace, we must be strong, decisive, and our adversaries, our totalitarian adversaries, must know that.
Mr. Sumlenny, it was nice to talk to you.